Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Equines Town Hall number 57. It is the 15th of September. I am joined this time by the lovely first maker, and this time we're missing Marek due to him traveling to even tougher time zone to join from. Usually he'd be joining from Japan, Far East, and it would already usually be a bit of a late night. He's now in Australia, which is even later. So it's been challenging for him to join this one, and we'll be covering his aspect of the town hall. And with that out of the way, we will just wait a few minutes for those who will be joining us live. Hello, Tomo. Good to have you here. Nice to see you as usual. I hope you have all been faring well. Hi, Boscat Rover. Hello, Escobar. Nice to see you around. Hello, Foxel. I'm glad you're looking forward. We just have 2 more minutes and we start with the content. All right, we usually wait for a full 5 minutes, but I think we're good to go. Hi, Javier. So let's get right into it. As usual, we're going to be following a similar flow of going over development updates. We'll have a bit of information about the private beta testing, some marketing updates, and then we'll go over the AMA questions. As usual, if you have any other AMA questions that pop up now during the town hall, you may post them here in the YouTube chat, or you may post them in Discord, where we'll catch up with those. So thank you again for tuning in. We appreciate your audience. On the development side, we've had actually quite a few things. The list we have here is not fully extensive. We primarily focused here on the web dev kind of fixes, but as an overall, we've done quite a few things with all of our dev teams. I think everyone has been very active during this period. Our web devs have been working on implementing a race schedule updater. Basically, we're doing it through command lines and let's say very limited access to that race schedule updater. But we've done it in a bit of a more, let's say, easier, accessible way, so that we can also iterate and change schedules every time we need them. And we've also been actually implementing now the jockey flow. As you guys have seen in the last Invitational, all jockeys were treated as balanced, and there's a high likelihood that the next Invitational might be treated the same. But if we can't fit it in, we might be able to loop in the jockeys, as we're working on that workflow right now. On the blockchain side of things, our team has actually been a bit busy working on some of the Chang hard fork related fixes, as we use some of the libraries that needed some updates. So there was quite a bit of effort also spent in updating those dependencies and making sure that we are fully functional, especially working with all of our APIs that needed those updates. And yeah, on the 3D side of things, we have already implemented support for multiple track distances. But with that comes the camera issue, where the different distances call for different camera logic. So we're now simplifying the camera logic to just following the horses for now, implementing that for all the distances, and yeah, that should be ready. And we've also had our other 3D dev who's joined recently. So I'm happy to report that he's already had a successful first pass where about 10 frames per second were already added to most of the screens just by doing updates to many of our pipeline components. So that's already a great achievement, but there's more and more to come on that side of things. Nick, I'm sorry again for the second town hall in a row. Maybe I've glossed over maybe most of the dev side. But if you have any overview to share with us still, I'd appreciate that. You're muted, I think.
No, it's just letting you go. You said if I have anything, I'll interject. Yeah, you had kind of a momentum going.
Okay.
You want me to do?
So
You
yeah,
want me to do this one?
it's okay. Yeah, just going over that update. So yeah, also actually, just as I mentioned you now, I remember we have the racing engine where we've had the racing engine implemented in a certain way, and it's already in a let's say good shape. But we've also asked Nick to provide us some tooling where me and Craig, as game design aspect, we're planning to use that tool to actually start also working on the balance side of things, as in um, what can we tweak in the racing engine to make for the best looking uh, race experience. And that means there's been a lot of questions recently, and I know as soon as you guys also get access to the actual racing, you guys will be even more interested in this. But the questions about what does a 5 speed mean, and that's a jab at Luke, but what does a 45 speed horse mean, and what does it mean to have this let's say mental stat, etc. And that really also depends on how the engine is balanced, right? So we want to also make sure that we've had a nice look at that, and that we tweak these parameters so they give you the best let's say outcome as possible. We're banking on also partly on Craig's high, let's say, experience and exposure to races and watching enough races to be able to tell what looks natural and what doesn't, as an overall, let's say, flow and average outcome. I think we're well equipped to be able to balance this out in a reasonable, let's say, starting position, and we can adjust as we go, but we want to at least get as much as possible in the right spot. Um, that's about it actually, but we're still pushing forward, plowing ahead actually, in getting everyone ready for the beta. Um, as we explained in the last town hall, the intention is to bring everyone into the beta for the next invitation, which means for the users to come and interact with the platform. That involves a high level of readiness from our side, um, being fairly stable and fairly, let's say, in good shape. But it was also with the caveat that we may need time, and we actually do need a little bit more time. So I hope we'll accept your understanding in that the event itself will be pushed forward to October. We will announce the date closer to then, but we just need a little bit more time to make sure that everyone has a good experience. We've already updated the race schedules to start testing those, but we also face a small issue regarding horse activation, where we need to iterate a little bit more just to make sure everything works well. But we're fairly confident that we're in a good spot to push this forward as we keep going. So we're not canceling the invitational. We're not canceling our plans. We're actually not going to redo the subscription or all of that. So everyone who's already signed up will remain intact. We're following the same process. It's just that the timing for the event itself will be pushed back a little bit forward. So that was it. And yeah, Escobar's comment actually is in place. I think we'd love to see improvements to the game mechanism. Last race with the game engine, there was no reaction from all horses because the race was served. Yeah, that's one of the things that we want to address actually. There's no, let's say, issue with the engine in terms of how it works, but let's say from an overtaking point of view, for example, maybe it's not as common as we'd expect. There's a few other, let's say, horse behavior aspects that we'd like to fine tune. But as long as we have the system in place and the process in place, I think we're confident we can do an even better job. So yeah, on the next steps for development, we're doing a final pass over all of the pages. So the individual race pages, all of these, making sure we are no longer using placeholders, that we no longer have any missing functionality. There are things that won't be implemented now, so those will just be hidden or removed. And then there are things that don't really matter at this stage. So again, those will be removed. And anything else that was missed or omitted, etc., we're just doing that pass now to make sure we don't leave any of that in. That includes thumbnails, images, and that kind of stuff. And that also all the displayed data is not the mock data, but rather the actual SIP86 based data that we have from the engine. So that's there. Now on the beta testing, we're saying that we're gonna do a draw of 24 and 24. So basically 24 random and then 24 picked. We've realized that we only have 57 registrations. It's still a significant number. Thank you so much for showing the interest. We decided instead of doing a draw or a pick to exclude basically 9 players, it just doesn't feel good if you're one of the last remaining 9 that don't get picked. It just doesn't make sense. So I've asked the team to just add one more race and make it so that everyone can join. So those 57 who did register will all be invited to this event. We'll be spending the next couple of weeks bringing people and making sure that they have the right testnet wallet set up. And then the next stage, once we're ready, that everyone can connect the wallet to the beta app and that they can make sure that it works in that aspect. So that's on the beta testing side of things. There's a Discord channel that will be for the beta test. So if you're not already in our Discord server, please do join. And there's a channel there that's available to all. And we'll be using this to guide people towards setting up the testnet wallets. And the team have put together a nice guide for this. And then the moderator team, as well as Rachel, will be helping everyone, supporting everyone in setting this up. We just want to make sure that our users also have a positive experience in this test. And onto the marketing side of things, Mark will be covering this, but the next week we'll focus on onboarding the testers. But we also have on the Thursday, we have a very nice return of Thorth Thursdays. We're very happy that Stitches was available for this event. And it's going to be co-hosted by none other than our lovely Troy and Cyrilizzi. And I really look forward actually to this event. Sometimes the timing is not so great for those living in my time region, but I'm still looking forward to tuning in. It's very nice to see Thoroughbred Thursdays come, and it's something that we actually enjoyed back when it was run, and we hope that there is much more content for people to talk about, starting from now, but also after people have access to the beta and the experience there. And so that's the overall schedule. The Invitational was scheduled for the 29th, but we're pushing that over to October, as we mentioned earlier. Now, about the event, each owner that registered, they will race a clone of their horse, but that's for one time only. So we'll set this up in a way which hopefully, if executed well, should only allow these races to be used for the invitational race itself, and then we'll update it to reflect that it's not active. We do this with the intention that there is not as much, let's say, experimenting possible with this horse. It will need a little bit of technical tweaking ourselves just to support this exclusion and inclusion, let's say, or limited inclusion for a type of race. But I think we can do this. We plan to do 5 races, each with a maximum of 12 horses, to be entered into the beta environment. And then you should be available in the period leading up to that race. So we'll open it up like a scheduled race in the beta with the different distances. And we think it would actually be the most fun if these if players are allowed to basically choose their distance, right? Because that's the game or part of the game. So we thought instead of pre-registering people for distances, we just allow people to spontaneously and by themselves enter the races that they wish with their horse, or the one race that they wish with the horse. I think it adds a bit of interest there because you can pick the distance you believe would be best. And if the race is full, then you just pick whichever one is still remaining. But it brings part of the game, I think, back to the Invitational, which it should be showing. All right. That's the end of our town hall content. We'll still go over the AMA questions. So there's a question saying, what is the range of each hidden mental stat? Is it 1 to 45? Also, how much of a boot does the jockey provide, experienced and expressed in points? I think, Nick, this is referring to the 2-year-old horses and whether their mental stats have the same size of spectrum.
Well, yes. Right now, the mental stats have the same distribution as the physical stats. They're just hidden, but that's just a number, right? You have to know then the effect of each stat on the actual behavior of the horse, which for now we've kept. We're not going to explain exactly, and also it's subject to balancing. Not the numbers. The numbers are going to stay the same, but the effect that it's going to actually have on your horses is subject to balancing, of course, both the mental and the physical one. But the mental, you're also never going to know the number. So that's going to be
Yeah,
something you're going to have to figure out.
exactly. And yeah, the balancing aspect, I think, means a 45 will still be the best and the one will still be the lowest in that sense. But
Yes,
it's
the
how
difference
much
between,
it does.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I think you've got to keep in mind that we said that repeatedly. Uh, Equine horses are all race horses, right? So I think I made the same analogy before, but it's like being a professional chess player. Even a bad professional chess player is still like a professional. He made it into professional chess players, so he's got some talent already at chess. So this is a racehorse. It made it into the racehorse enough to get into equine. So that's even a bad stat is still a like it's still gonna beat a regular horse every time in a race because he's a racehorse, right? He's a professional racer. Um, and as to the boost for the jockeys, well, we need that to be significant so that your choice of jockey does something. And again, subject to balance, right? This is gonna we're gonna play with it, and we're gonna make sure that switching, like we can do a lot of things that are really fun in race balancing. For example, we can have the same horse run against clones of itself. Let's say 6 clones or 6 clones total with 6 different jockeys, and just see the effect that the jockeys has on the race and then balance it out, right? The strength of the effect of the jockey. So we're going to be playing around with that and running a lot of races to just balance out these effects. And since um, we can do theoretical races with clones or perfect horses or the worst horse possible and stuff like that. We can do a lot of statistics. Let's say having a race between a horse with all the stats at the maximum value and a race with the horse at all the stats at the minimum value, and have them race a million times and see how much of these come out with the worst horse winning, and make sure that those statistics make sense with real life. So that's the kind of tools we have because it's a virtual game, right? So that's what's going to go on behind the scene when we get deep into game balancing, and we want to make sure that all the numbers make sense and that the fastest horse possible is barely at the world record of speed for race horses, not for the world record setters, which are not race horses, by the way. There's specialized horses for world records at certain lengths, which is not the same quality. It's not the same type of training to be a racehorse. So anyway, all of those things we're gonna get to play with. and make sure that it all makes sense and is fun. But we want the jockeys to be a tactical decision and have an effect, right? So we're not gonna make it so that they don't. We're gonna make sure that they have
Yeah.
a small but significant effect on the race.
Yeah, I mean,
That's what,
theoretically, I mean, from a balancing perspective, it's all about the spirit of balancing. And I think, for example, a jockey shouldn't be able to upgrade a horse from being the last to being the first, right? It's not
right.
that degree of a change, but it could make the difference between being third place and second or first, right? In a very competitive race. And then I think that's still very serious. And then when we talk about the balancing spirit, like Nick was mentioning, we want to refer to reality. And then we've already done a lot of analysis on, for example, what are average performances across different distances and what are average times across different distances and different abilities. So the lowest, let's say, grade horses, and how much time they take for the different tracks. And we understand tracks shapes and etc. make a difference, but we're basically referring to those in the balancing so that our lowest stat horses can correspond to the lowest, let's say, performance horses while leaving some buffer. Because rest assured, people are gonna breed some horrible horses, and then some people are also gonna breed better horses than they originally had, right? So we need to also leave some space at both ends so that we have room for even worse horses than the originals, and then we need also space for horses that will be improved because there's gonna be some exceptional breeders that are gonna make some really good horses. So we can't have let's say the Frankels of equine starting from the Pioneer collection. We need to leave a little bit of room for that, for the players to come out and basically come up with the best horses possible to breed. So we're leaving that also aspect of the game. So we're leaving that buffer. Now, to the next question, what desktop set will testers need? And I think this refers to specs, hardware and software. Um, See, the current version of the game is running on let's say browsers. We support Chrome and Chromium based browsers, and other browsers should also be supported in the same manner. I mean, the most popular, let's say, browsers should be supported. But the point of beta testing is also to identify any incompatibilities. Um, from a 3D part of things, it should not be very demanding. And as we implement optimization, it should be lower and lower. Our intention is for it to be actually very accessible even to low end devices. Um, but the threshold or the limit to what works has not been fully tested. So we need to do a little bit more testing on that. But also the beta testers will get to a chance to try different setups. I haven't failed to run the 3D even on my laptops, for example, but my laptops are still fairly, let's say, reasonably powered. So I don't think that's a good, let's say, test or litmus test. Um, we will need browsers that have a SIP30 compatible wallet. And at this stage, actually, as we mentioned earlier, most of our extensive testing has been using Eternal. We of course want to support as many wallets as we can, so that's also a work in progress. But the priority is to get the platform running at least with a reliable wallet. So Eternal by default is the one that will have the same experience that we have, and then others will ensure that they work as well. Um, I don't think we have a significant operational system, let's say, requirement in terms of Windows, Linux, Mac. Do you think, Nick, any of them will make a difference in terms of support? I, I doubt it.
Now, right now, you need a GPU of some sort, ideally, and you need to support WebGL, which has a little website that you can just click on to verify if you support WebGL. It will have a spinning 3D cube just to show you that WebGL works, and that should be it, really. But we're working so much on optimization right now that the specs will be changing a lot. You you'll be able to get much better quality with a much lower computer as we keep going. We've we've hired a 3D guy that specialized in this kind of the pipeline and the optimization of the conversions of the assets. So this is very much a moving target right now, but it's getting lower and lower. Basically, you'll get better performance with um, older computers as we go.
Yeah. Okay. Next question is: does the Equine engine know the outcome of the race at the start of the race? then if it does, what is done to safeguard this? And this is an interesting question. The first answer is yes. Um, at the start of the race, meaning after everything is already locked in, after all the horses are locked in, after there's no more scratching, and there's no more changes to any other parameters, like you know already who's joining, etc. So yeah, the moment that the race starts is also the moment when the full race outcome is determined. And so there's no doubt, I would say, there. If it does, what is done to safeguard this? And then the question is to safeguard this against what? Um, if it's about betting, we'd make it very clear to anybody who's integrating with us that, for example, something like betting or wagering should not be possible after the race starts, because by then the result is already available as a spoiler. You can tell who won the race from the first moment. This is by nature of how the structure is. I'd say technically it would probably be possible to do a streaming kind of gradual reveal, but from a blockchain side of things, it's probably very difficult to do this uh, without committing to the outcome. It just seems very, very challenging to implement. So unless there's another aspect that we are overlooking here in terms of what should be done to safeguard, I hope this answers it. If you have any other concerns, or you think there's another part that should be safeguarded against this, then let us know, and we'll find out what needs to be done. Right. Marketing question: how is Rare Evo? What is the team planning for the summit in November? Well, unfortunately, we didn't have physical presence at Rare Evo, and none of our team members were actually attending there. However, we were represented through our partnership or cooperation with Reflect, where we had some presence there. We're actually also already listed as a coming soon game for Reflect, and we have a lot of discussion with them and how we can implement that cooperation. Primarily by using our let's say Reflect's common sign-on or onboarding, let's say, option. But there's also a much wider avenue of things that we can work together on, and we identify them as, I think, a potentially very valuable, mutually valuable partner. What is the team planning for the summit in November? So the summit, my experience from last year's summit was positive. I was there in Dubai, actually, in the main part of the summit. But I did realize that the booth did show something, but there was not much in terms of at least representation from the NFT and gaming, let's say, sectors. It was primarily technology oriented, which is not really bad. It's just a bit different from, for example, Rare Evo. But there was, I think, a lot that could be gotten from attending the talks and the panels, and there's a lot of networking. So we're planning to do the same. I'm not sure if the doors have been closed for all speaking opportunities, but we couldn't really cement any of those in ahead of time. But least of all, the plan will at least be some level of representation physically there, including opportunity for networking there and promotion of the project. Obviously, if we have the project up for beta testing and we can show more of it, it will be even more positive, as we can actually demonstrate more. And if there's any of our partners who will have physical presence there as well, we might be able to actually put together something where we can show more of our project. That's the plan. All right. There's a comment from Tomo saying integrated graphics can use OpenGL as well. You may not need a dedicated GPU. So yeah, for integrated graphics, it might just be a graphics, basically. Yeah, a graphics processor. I think even integrated counts. I'm not sure technically, hardware-wise, whether it counts as a GPU or not. But technicalities aside, I think we can provide the link, and people can test whether that's enough for them or not. I think for the beta testing, we'll make sure that people have enough of an opportunity to test at least the interface and that things are working for them. We also don't want a last second, let's say, challenge with people not being able to join races, sorry, with their horses. So we'll make sure that there's enough trials there. But even if you can't open the race itself, as long as you can enter your horse, that's enough for the invitational. And then we can watch the races together through the live stream. That's the plan, at least. Yeah, let me see if there's any other last second questions that we got. I don't see anything on YouTube. Okay. Yeah, I think we might have covered all the questions. As always, feel free to send us any feedback, any comments, any suggestions, any ideas, any questions through our Discord. We're always happy to address any concerns or suggestions that the team have, and we're always keen to hear your feedback on things as they progress. I apologize once again for pushing back the invitational event itself. This is all in the interest of having the best possible experience, and that we're also ready. We're still trying to take the highest level of commitment from our team to push forward progress. Yeah, but sometimes you get things that you don't foresee. However, I think we're still making very, very good progress and excellent momentum. And yeah, without further ado, I think this is the closing of our town hall stream. Thank you so much for everyone who tuned in. Thank you, Fence Maker, for joining. Hope you have a happy remainder of the Sunday, and have a good week ahead. Thank you very much. This is Fahad signing out.
Yeah, thank you for joining. Have a good one.